A little button that says not yet. That's cute. All right, here we go. It says it's showtime. I hit the live button. It still says not yet. Oops. I almost, you know what? I think I hit the end broadcast. Oh no, crap, I've been live for 30 seconds. There's our new royalty-free music.
Introduce yourself.
Okay, it's the off night, episode 127, which means we've gone over 2.5 years now. And it's comedians and their fans and their friends that want to get together. I'm going to scroll after we get our guests, our regulars out there. I'm going to scroll the address to join us. Our regular announcer, Andy, is in here. We can talk about that once we get on the air. But let me bring the music down. I like this little. Now, this I like because I'm not technical, but I can bring the music down. Listen to this. Hey, how about that? Just click a button. It does a slow fade. I like that. All right. And then I can just save it for the end of the show, and I can use the same music for outro. All right. Anyway, I'm Mark Sweetman. I'm here every Monday night at 8 o'clock.
Except when you're not.
It's been most Mondays. There have been a couple of times where we've had technical glitches, or sometimes on 3-day holidays we do it on Tuesdays. But I mean, 127 shows. I mean, we've outlasted a lot of other what I call pandemic go to the internet shows for a lot of comics who couldn't do their stuff. And we have a Sunday night show in Ypsilanti, Michigan, where a lot of our hosts and our guests perform, and we'll plug that a little bit later on. But right now, I want to introduce the two guys that are regulars with us. Here he is from New York, Mr. Sam Greenfield. I think I hit
kids.
Stream. Oh, there we go. Sam Greenfield, welcome, Sam.
Always a pleasure.
I know it is.
What?
Anyway, hey, we were going to talk Thursday, and I called you, and I don't know what happened. So we'll try that again this week sometime.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. All right,
Well,
and then also
go ahead. No, go ahead.
I remember we both had appointments, doctor's appointments, and so I think Thursday was the day we decided. And then as I was not getting an answer when I called you, I thought maybe I had the date wrong. So we'll figure it out.
Well,
Anyway.
I have an appointment this Thursday, but it's at 9:40 a.m., so I don't think that'll interfere.
What time is my Thursday appointment?
I don't know, but I don't think you need to schedule it during your podcast.
Yeah, well, we'll talk. Yeah, we'll talk afterwards. Anyway, also a regular. Pardon me. Also a regular is Jason Grant, who has now become our regular opener on our Sunday night show.
Mazel tov.
Yes, thank you.
And you know what? Yeah. And you were able to stay for the whole show pretty much last night.
Yeah, last night.
So after our podcast here, I'm going to talk to you about last night's show a little bit too.
Oh, did I do something bad again?
When you're off the air.
No. Just I want to talk to you about some of the production.
Okay.
The things that are happening with production. We have a host, the Ipsy Ale House.
Yes.
Which I'd like to plug right now because they have decided to make more of a commitment to our show.
You've mentioned some of you've dangled some of this out there like tantalizing fruit that we're about to reap the rewards of.
Right now, if we get some people that'll join us on our podcast, here, let me put that address up here right now so we can. If anybody wants to join us, they can join us right there. It is, and join us, and we can talk about that show if you want to. That's kind of a fun thing. And but other than that, did we lose Sam? Sam, can you
I hope not.
Yeah, I'm right here.
Oh, okay. All right.
Sam.
Okay. All right. Well, anyway, we got everybody here, so now I'm going to turn it over to Susan. Susan Sweetman, my lovely bride, every week takes the news headlines and writes a little poem for us, and we kind of use that as our topical agenda when we start talking about topical things. So here's my bride, Susan.
Yes, your unofficial poet laureate with this great work of literature that I that I spend all of maybe 10 minutes putting together. So,
Ooh.
Very smooth transition there.
sometimes I spend a little more time. Depends. Mark sometimes actually gives me the headlines. Other times I have to look them up.
This week I didn't.
This week he did not.
Last week she said, "Stop giving me headlines." This week she didn't get any from me.
Okay, so here's the news in verse. Trump opposes fast track of the DOJ appeal. Former president remarks really seem unreal. The death toll from Ian in Florida is rising. FEMA is there to help with rebuilding and uprising. Joe Biden spoke in Puerto Rico today. Relief aid to our territory is given. Hooray! Russian draftees are facing really hard times. They'll now have to deal with Putin's war crimes. South Sudan is concerned about the Ebola virus. Screening border with Uganda. Will there be another crisis? And that's the poem of the week.
Thank you. Thank you.
I like your.
That was the most depressing poem she's ever read.
That is so.
I could not find any cute doggy news or something.
Oh dear.
I looked.
Yeah.
But there is potential because as she was talking about Joe Biden down in Puerto Rico, as I was watching that, I was thinking, when Trump went down there, remember him throwing the rolls of toilet paper?
I'll never forget it as long as I live.
If I was if I was on Joe Biden's staff and I had the pull to pull this off, I would have had him there and I would have had the cameras on when the people were throwing toilet paper rolls back at him. And he would be like collecting them and handing them off to his staff. Well, I just think that would be a great way to book.
You know what else? Trump said, I just want to mention that at the Queen's funeral, Joe Biden was in the 14th row. They'd never put me in that row. And as soon as he printed that tweet, not tweet, well, whatever his social platform is, the reaction from people was so overwhelming. Yeah. And it was essentially, and you can fill in the rest, but yeah, you know where they'd put you? And then it was the Queen's bathroom, a garbage dump outside of Leeds, over, and just every insulting. Yeah, but the contrast between, giving $78 million worth of aid to Puerto Rico and throwing out paper towels.
That, but then after that, he went up the coast to the Carolinas and he had that famous line about how, oh, is this your boat? Like he was telling the people the boat had landed in their yard.
Oh,
did you remember that one where he told them they could keep the boat?
Yes.
It was
yes.
Like finders keepers.
Well, as a New Yorker, the thing that'll live with me forever is when 9/11 occurred, he said, now I have the tallest building in New York.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes. Oh my,
which, by the way, was not only a craven thing to say. Yes, the Stephen Colbert book.
Yeah. Well, money went to charity, so we bought one. I think we bought a couple.
Not only what was that the thing about the tallest building. Not only was it craven and horrible, but it was not true. It wasn't true. He did not have the tallest building then.
Does it matter? I mean, to Trump, of
course it doesn't matter, but I'm just saying
matter to him.
There's no end to him.
No. Well, Leona Helmsley company owns the tallest building.
Yes.
The Empire State Building.
That's correct.
Yes.
Helmsley's company owns that. Wow.
Yeah. Yes.
I thought that was a government building. I thought it was a state building.
The Ellen DeGeneres of real estate.
another about to say another charming woman. Just that.
Oh man, did you ever see the docudrama with Suzanne Pleshette as her?
How could you miss? I'm gay. Of course I saw it. I mean that's sort of like I'm not one to dress up in women's clothing. Occasionally their skin, but never mind that. But that's one. The other one that is also in my videotape collection somewhere is Vanna White in her turn as the Venus de Milo come to life on Earth, in her one, her tour de force on the small screen. Aside from turning over the letters, so yeah, it just
you know what I like about Vanna White? She has no pretense about herself.
And
She
if
does
you
not act like
saw,
she's something special or like I'm great. She says I turn letters, I make a
yep,
lot of money,
yep.
I'm very grateful for what I have.
And
I love her for that. I do.
if you
She's
saw her, Vanna White, in the film Goddess of Love, you would understand why. That she's very modest and she has much to be modest about.
Well, you
but
know
she
what
admits
though?
it. That's what
You
I
know what?
admire. She
And
admits it.
Oh
She does
yeah,
not
she's
come across like, well,
oh yeah, she's yeah.
Donnie Osmond. This will kill you.
Ah,
Donnie
yeah.
Osmond said, I was supposed to be considered for the role of Michael Corleone in The Godfather.
Oh,
And when he
those
said that,
words came out of his
yes,
mouth. Oh
yes.
dear. Oh
But
dear.
when he said it, I lost consciousness because I was
And
laughing so hard I
he,
hyperventilated.
he said it
did
in
you
front of
now
people.
wait a minute now? Did you a couple of things? Did you see The Offer?
No, I
No, but
haven't
I
seen
heard it's
that yet.
brilliant.
You got to see it when it comes on another network that you don't have to pay for. I'll let you know when it's.
Well, here's what I'm going to
Well,
do. I'm
But
going to
anyway,
get that network and then cancel.
there
okay,
you go.
yeah, get the 7 free days and then cancel it. But
Well,
anyway,
it was my understanding they were considering Robert Redford for the role.
yes, yeah. Well, the thing that
which would make it the worst casting ever.
a lot of the movie was the producer fighting for Al Pacino.
Who had
The
only had
studios.
Panic in Needle Park. But
Yeah,
his character is very different from Corleone.
Yeah,
It's
but the
opposite.
studio
Well,
fought it.
he's
And
playing a junkie.
yeah. Well, when you see the
they
movie, when you
wanted
see the
and they also
miniseries,
wanted De Niro. Oh no, they wanted James Caan for the role of Michael Corleone.
right?
Yeah.
By the way, James
it was the producer and what's his name?
Was it Robert Evans?
Frank Francis Ford Coppola and the
Coppola.
producer fought for that
Yes,
cast.
Albert Ruddy.
You know what else they had to
Okay.
fight for? They had to
Yeah.
fight for their location shooting in Italy.
Well, I know they had to also fight for their location shooting in Little Italy as well.
Yeah,
They had to go in and
they had the
speak with
mob.
some,
According
some
to
local
this,
guys.
according to this miniseries, this 8-episode series, they got a lot of help from the mob and the union to get that stuff shot in New York.
But they had to get the nod from one of the big guys. I'm not sure who. I don't want to know who.
Well, there's a great scene. There's a great scene toward the end of the series where they had a showing of The Godfather before it premiered out in Hollywood and in New York for just the mobsters. and it's a great scene. You see these,
that's absolutely perfect.
But the thing is, they don't show anything on the screen. They just do a pan shot going across all these faces of all these mobsters, and you see tears coming down their cheek. It was, and then they stand up and giving a standing ovation. It was a great scene.
Well, and Coppola, who helped write the screenplay. Go ahead, Sam. Hello, Sam.
The woman who played Apollonia.
Yes.
Yeah.
Simonetta Stefanelli is still beautiful. Is still really, really lovely.
You're going in and out, Sam.
We're losing
get
you, Sam.
to that mic if you can.
The woman who played Apollonia.
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yep. Now you're fine.
Can you? The woman who played Apollonia, her name was Simonetta Stefanelli.
Okay.
Is still beautiful.
Oh, I believe it.
Still gorgeous.
I believe it. All right, before we move on, I did have some.
I'll tell you something amazing.
I did have something to say about the girl on the Wheel of Fortune, Vanna White.
Vanna White. Yeah.
Vanna White.
Before we moved on from that, I thought she did a great job. The week that the host Pat Sajak had to sit out for medical.
That she hosted?
When she hosted, I thought she did a great job. And then she didn't lord that over anybody. She didn't try to use that to get her own show and all that crap.
No, and there don't seem to be any horror stories emanating from her past.
Right.
Yeah. You know why she didn't demand more? She's one of the few people in Hollywood who knows how to stay in her lane.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Make her cash that damn check and make sure it keeps coming.
She's been doing it. Maybe 40 years now. She was doing it when I was in high school, right? That's amazing. That is just amazing.
No, it's nice when you find the right person for the job. To some degree, Ed McMahon. I know he got a lot of guff, but you know what? he was the perfect foil for Carson when
Lovely
he needed
guy.
something. A Marine colonel and fighter pilot. Guy flew P-38s, which was a widowmaker of an airplane.
Yeah.
And had its roots here at Ann Arbor, Michigan, where Kelly Johnson was designing it as a grad student before he went to Lockheed. But he also was able to sort of be Johnny's foil. And when Johnny needed something else, of course, he had either Doc or occasionally Tommy Newsom, when every now and then he'd throw something at him. But yeah, as someone who really understood, where he was in that program and stayed there, like as you said.
The thing I loved about McMahon is when they did Karnak.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
His little side comments were just non-Perel, just beautiful. And also, to Carson's credit, he let him do it. He let him get made fun of.
And
Carson let himself get made fun of.
Every time, but Carson always had that comeback. And sometimes he had no idea what Ed McMahon was going to say, but the writers had something for him to come back with. And sometimes it seemed a little bit out of place because those comebacks by Carson were written no matter what Ed McMahon said.
May the fleas of 1,000 camels infest your armpits.
Yes. Yeah. So Ed McMahon was allowed, their writers never talked to them. Whoever wrote for Ed McMahon or any of the stuff that he came off the cuff with, he was allowed to do. And Carson had his set response no matter what.
Yeah. I mean,
do you know who Carson's least favorite guest was?
Oh, heck. Give me a hint, male or female. I mean, this could be a list.
Male, comedian, legendary.
Bob Hope.
He hated Bob Hope, my understanding. Bob would like show up and
he would show up and he would do a set routine
walk on without the introduction.
Would do a set routine of jokes that weren't funny and would plug something he was going to do. And one time Carson said something, I saw this, and Hope gave him a look. Oh my God. And it was this. He said, you're still doing that overseas tour, right? He goes, yeah. He goes, well, that's good because I drove a Chrysler and what a garbage can. and Hope looked at him. Hope had the good common sense not to say anything because I think he realized that if he had said something, Carson would say, no, I'm not kidding. That's the biggest piece of shit that I've ever been inside of.
Yeah.
And I've been inside a Cher. What?
Help me.
Wow. Throwing down with a Cher. Oh my.
I feel bad. I have great, I have a lot of respect for her, seriously, because when Sonny Bono died, he left her $50.
Yeah.
But she was doing all right when he died.
She did do okay.
She was doing okay.
I mean,
she's, how great she's doing? What's her name? Kathy Griffin wanted to visit Cher, and she asked somebody in Malibu, "Where does Cher live here?" And the guy said, "You see the mountain you're looking at? Yeah. See the left side of the mountain? Yeah, that's Cher's."
That's Cher's. Yeah, yeah. Because I mean, we'd have to go back and look at what the divorce was like, and also what the publishing rights from Sonny and Cher are. Because I guarantee you, that's a multi-million-dollar earner on an annual basis. And Sonny, who came up in the business, he was an A&R man. He worked with Phil Spector before Spector started killing his dates. He wrote Needles and Pins, which was a hit. And Sonny has his name. Yeah. And he used the money from the Searchers to then finance the first couple of singles, who at the time they were called Caesar and Cleo, and they changed the name to Sonny and Cher. And on those records, I Got You, Babe, and there's another one whose name escapes me right now.
Bang.
Are people like Leon Russell, several members of the Wrecking Crew. It's the creme de la creme of the recording industry at that time. And, and Sonny was pretty savvy about his business affairs.
Gary Lewis and the Playboys, they had one big hit album, This Diamond Ring. Yep. Leon Russell was the arranger.
Yeah. Yeah, Leon Russell played at one point, I think, for Paul Revere and the Raiders, when Paul Revere had been drafted and was serving his CO duty. as a cook in a mental institution, and so they brought in Leon Russell.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Hey, you know.
What do you
crazy
mean it
world.
tastes like mama?
Well, and then one of the top drummers of that era, Jim Gordon, ends up. Funny you mentioned this, because Jim Gordon, who played with Derek and the Dominoes, he played for Gordon Lightfoot, and he beat his mother to death with a hammer on a coke binge, and is still in prison to this day.
His or hers?
I think it was his. And
Wow.
apparently,
And he's still in prison.
He's still in prison. But if you go back to the late 60s and early 70s, whenever they had a session man in the LA area, it's usually Jim Gordon who's playing the drums. He played with CSN on their first albums.
With who?
Crosby, Stills and Nash. Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. Jim Gordon was doing the drums on a lot of that stuff in the studio. I don't think he was part of the live ensemble.
Did you ever see the documentary on David Crosby?
Not yet, but you know, he's such a loathsome human being who's
He really is.
But he's so fucking talented. It's like having Heinrich Himmler and Van Gogh in one package, and it's like, oh my God, the art's amazing, but Jesus Christ, this lizard needs to go.
To this day, Graham Nash, who likes everybody,
hates
Graham
him.
Nash, Graham
Nash won't talk to him.
Terry Melcher was asked who the most difficult guy he ever worked with was, and he said David Crosby. And someone asked, okay, well, who was the second most difficult? He goes, Charles Manson.
Wow.
This is a guy you would know. You know, I mean, you know, yeah, exactly. I mean, nobody likes Crosby, and they don't. Again, you listen to the arrangements on the Byrds, those first couple of albums, there are amazing vocals. It's fantastic guitar work. But, you know, the man is a living Dorian Gray. If you look at the man, everything hideous about him is right there on the surface. And if you get close enough, you know, I think he generates his own gravity field, and you'll end up sort of like sucked in. I mean, he makes Larry Flint look like an appropriate dinner guest for your 14-year-old daughter. I'm not a
do you remember when
fan.
he did? You remember he got arrested? He did time.
Yes, for cocaine at the same time I was being arrested and going through and I'm like, damn, well, I guess if he can get arrested, do time in Texas, I should just shut up and get back to work.
And amazingly, when it came to social affairs, you know, his heart was in the right place.
Sure, you know,
and he wrote the song Ohio.
Yeah, and well, he and Neil Young. That's
right. Neil Young won't talk to him because Crosby hit on his woman.
Well, and Neil's also got autism on a big way, and it's been getting worse over the years. Neil, again, writes amazing songs, beautiful songs. I mean, and we can argue about his political leanings, but you can tell by looking at him, like not all the gears are sort of meshing together. You know, he was with his one wife for 30 years and then dropped her in a heartbeat for what's her name, that one has-been actress who probably still has some
Carrie Snodgrass.
No, he dropped her too. Dropped her and quit supporting the two kids that he had by her, who were severely crippled with MS, and she had to hunt him down for decades. I think he's with Roseanne Arquette now. He dropped his wife that he wrote that one song about finding the waitress in the diner. Well, that was his wife that he was married to for 25 years, and then he dropped her ass when she put on Too Many Wrinkles, as if he's any prize, and now he's married to Roseanne Arquette.
Now?
You know, yes. I mean, and she couldn't get a job doing OnlyFans as a lesbian duo with Rachel Dolezal, who is doing OnlyFans, by the way. And the thought of a Rachel Dolezal, Roseanne Arquette throuple with Neil Young is just, it's like, no, at that point I have to.
Did you ever see? I wanted to always. I always had in my mind that Rachel Dolezal would do a one-woman show called "God Damn It, I Said I'm Black."
I'll help her write it.
Well, what is it? You know, we pillory that woman, but yet that other faker, Sean, I forget his last name, who's They call him Talcum X because this dude is as white as can
Talcum
be.
X.
Yeah, because
That's
he's got
brilliant.
yeah, because he's got
Hey.
and he's got pictures of him as a kid. He's blonde haired, blue eyed, white as can be. Parents are both white. He says, "Well, no, actually, Mama stepped out on Daddy, and he's really half black." And it's like, no, dude, you ain't high yellow. You as chalky as I am. So
You know my favorite expression when you're referring to someone who's not completely black?
yeah,
Octoroon. I love that
octoroon.
because
That usually
it
means
sounds
a
like a
sixth or an
cookie.
eighth. Yeah, usually that's your
Oh, yeah, you're an
grandfather.
eighth black.
Yeah. I mean, a friend of mine who has since passed away, Ora Herbert Ellis Jr. And as you know, for any of us who hung around with some of our melanin enhanced friends, they give you the things, and then they tell you, by the way, never repeat that, otherwise the committee's going to be over at my house. It's like, wearing the do-rag when your white friends show up. You're not supposed to do that. And he would tell me some of the things that black folks said about each other when we weren't listening, and it just absolutely would curl your hair, if I can use that expression. But amongst other things, he had one of the expression was 11:59 for really dark. Instead of blue black, it'd be 11:59, 1 minute before midnight. I just stuff that I had
Alabama. I also heard Alabama blue gum.
My God, but I mean, stuff I had no idea this stuff went on behind closed doors or out of our. I mean, I suppose that
if you look at
reflects my own
somebody who's black,
arrogance.
who's really dark black, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. If you look at someone who's black, who's really, really, really dark black,
Yeah.
their gums are purple.
Wow.
And
Okay.
so the expression Alabama blue gum,
Right. That
which
and
I
there
thought
also
was a
seems-
flavor of chewing gum,
it definitely would have been something as a kid. I definitely had that in the trading cards, and with Gates Brown and Mickey Lolich and Denny. Yeah. Another thing that I see go on that I didn't know happened was there's a lot of black folks who collect racist art and or KKK artifacts.
Yes.
And I don't get that either. I mean, I suppose, I guess you can, but Whoopi
I'll tell
Goldberg
you something that
collector.
amazed me.
Isn't there a large collection of racist artifacts up at Ferris State?
Yes, one of
Yeah.
the largest. One
Yeah.
of the largest.
Bill
That's
Cosby.
that's hardly a black community,
Yeah.
Bill Cosby tried to buy up all of the Amos and Andy series.
Yes,
so
I heard about
so
this.
it couldn't be shown again. And
Exactly.
somebody said to him, if you buy this up and put it away, those actors get no residuals. Those actors get nothing.
I don't think Cosby would have given a shit about that.
Not even a shit. Even a shit. And then the person said to him, I don't think you're examining this closely enough. And he explained to him, he said, there was nothing wrong with the character Kingfish. He was a hustler. He was a guy trying to make a dime on the sly. He was like the black Ralph Cramden.
Yeah, and his wife would always, come out ahead in the long run.
And always patient and always loving. And the mother-in-law, played by Amanda Randolph, was just a nagging, mother-in-law.
Yeah.
And who else? Amos was a straight shooter. Was a nice guy, drove a cab, and Andy was just kind of a slow wit. The only character on that show who could make you kind of go like that was Lightning.
Well, is it really any worse than Andy Rooney in or Mickey? Excuse me, not
Mickey Rooney.
Mickey Rooney.
Andy Rooney. What's the matter with him?
Mickey Rooney in Breakfast. Breakfast at Tiffany's, which is, I think, a delightful movie. And then you have his scene.
Well, he played the Chinese guy?
Yes.
Yeah,
I mean, and it's just so...
Or Japanese, I should say.
Whatever. I mean, it's like, how much...
Oh, that's beyond belief bad.
Were you... I mean, what was acid around back then? Did anyone take any? Maybe they should have. I know Cary Grant was big on this shit back then.
You know what?
Well,
maybe that there's a movie that should be remade just to get rid of that character.
Yes. It makes the movie unwatchable. It's like Francis Ford Coppola's daughter in Godfather 3. Godfather 3 is a subpar movie compared to the other two, but it's not a bad movie. until you dropped Sofia Coppola in it, and you'd have been better off with a Winona Ryder cardboard cutout with
Well,
someone saying her lines.
they
while
said
someone
that the
moves
reason
mouth
she
up
got
and
the
down.
part is because Winona Ryder dropped out.
Yeah, she was busy sucking Johnny Depp off, and she'd been up for a few weeks in a row doing coke off his backside. And
Wait,
she
couldn't she
claimed
do both?
exhaustion.
Why couldn't
I
she
would.
do both?
I don't know. I would have. If I had a chance to blow Johnny Depp, do coke, and be in Godfather 3, I'd have been there. But
You
I
know,
don't know that
it
I
just
could've-
goes to show you the bitch was lazy.
Yeah. I mean, later on, she did manage to turn it around with Beetlejuice. But again, if you can't do well in a Tim Burton movie, that's on you. That's your fault. So even what the first Batman was Tim Burton. Was the first one or first two were Tim Burton films?
I know the first one was with Jack Nicholson.
Yes, and everyone got mad at Jack because he made a bunch of money off the toys.
You know how he made a bunch of money? He didn't
he
take
had a good
salary.
lawyer.
Well, right. He didn't take salary. He said,
Yeah.
Whatever you get from selling Batman toys, Batman, whatever, I'll just take that."
Yeah.
And he made like $65 million.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean,
So they hate him for being smart?
Yeah, exactly. For knowing where the money was, because there are people who are still waiting to get paid from The Exorcist, from The Godfather 1 and 2. The creative accounting never ends.
Penny Marshall was waiting for 3 years to get paid from A League of Their Own.
Yeah. I mean the accounting that goes on in these big budget films, because it's like a defense contract. They keep adding all kinds of expenses and other overruns, and no one gets paid.
Well, the other thing they do is it's kind of like the NFL. That's why these football players, they get upfront money.
Yes.
They call it a signing bonus. Because the NFL can cut you at any time and you don't get paid.
They can. That's right.
So you see these guys, you go, how come they read a 25 million? Because if they don't, the next year, the Detroit Lions could tell someone, "I'm sorry, it's not happening."
No, and rest assured, the reason why people are there is to see those guys on the field playing. It's not because we have deep respect for the accounting department in major sports teams.
I'll tell you what else amuses me: the fact that anybody believes that the NFL cares about the welfare of their clientele.
Please, and not just the NFL. Any of these sports organizations going down, and including high school. If you don't think there aren't paid players in high school, there may not be much of it up here. Go a little further south. Go to Texas. Tell me what goes on.
Oh, listen, Texas red shirts high school players.
Exactly.
High school players get redshirted.
Yes.
So I mean, it's amazing. But there's a famous story about that.
Old guy with beards.
Well, yeah. I'm sorry, but she's not a beard. She's actually my wife.
No. I think he's talking about facial hair.
Oh, I see. I'm sorry.
No, and everyone knows I'm a faggot, so I don't bother with the beard anymore.
There you go. There you go. You don't need the beard.
No, I always thought that was incredibly cruel for men to go out there and pretend to be straight, and to use a woman in that particular fashion, and then try and come off as some kind of nobility. It never made any sense to me.
At different time.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a different time, but you know exactly what I mean too.
But I'll tell you what amuses me is when they say that Liberace was a confirmed bachelor. That's my favorite phrase ever. Yes. Confirmed bachelor. That's right. And how many women, let's say ages 45 and up, would go to Vegas to see Liberace and go, "Oh, I know my daughter would just make him the happiest woman." Well, she grows a penis. Yeah. If she can sprout a pecker, he'll be very happy.
Yeah. That's actually kind of a neat trick, but I'm not.
Before I knew what confirmed bachelor meant, I had an uncle, Uncle Frankie, and he was never married. And somebody said, one of the women folk in our family said he was a confirmed bachelor, and my grandmother goes, "He is not confirmed."
Well, what's his name? Chris Rock said, "I'm so tired of homophobia. Doesn't everybody have an Uncle June?"
Yeah.
Well, again, homophobia, the fear that gay men will break into your house and redecorate. You know, I mean, just real gay fear there. I don't know. My mother never could understand it. She was always like, I just don't get it. I mean, but the woman was a dyed-in-the-wool heterosexual. And as I've said on stage, and it's true, she used to say, the only reason I married you is because you had a good job and a giant cock. And sometimes she didn't mention the job. I mean, that's what sealed the deal for my pop,
It could have gone the other way around. It could have been a good cock and a giant job.
Well, one time they asked her, what are you sitting on? What's making you smile? And my dad grumbled the Grand Canyon, to which she just looked at him and said, well, you ought to know, you drilled it.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, the woman just didn't take any shit, but she did know how to get the man she wanted and keep him under her thumb for 34 years, which kind of an achievement. I mean, if Liz Taylor had done that with Larry Fortunsky the first time, we wouldn't have had all the other iterations, right?
Man, I'm going to tell you something. If they ever did a documentary on fortune hunters, that guy is the star.
Oh my God! Larry
Holy
Fortunsky
shit!
Meets Liz
Taylor. Is that the male version of Gold Digger, Fortune Hunters?
Whatever. I mean,
yes.
You meet Liz Taylor in rehab. The woman is sporting the 9-carat Krupp diamond, worth tens of millions of dollars, and she also had that god-awful perfume line, making her tens of millions of dollars. I'd marry her so fast it'd make your head spin.
I used to wait on her when she was doing Private Lives with Burton.
Really?
At the National Theater. Yeah. And she could not have been nicer. She was so sweet and drunk every night and so hammered. And I said, but she was conversational, and she requested me to be her waiter. And I'm going to tell you this, and this is the God's truth. She was in her 60s at the time. I had no interest in her. No. But she said to me one day, Sam, do you think I drink too much? And I said, I think you should declare Johnny Walker as a dependent. And she laughed. She said, what did she call me? You impertinent little fucker, you. And I said, that I am. And every night, $50 tip. If she sat down and had one drink, $50 tip. If she had a meal, $50, So I'll tell you who else was nice. Al Pacino.
I could see that.
He was doing Cuba and the Teddy Bear, and in DC, and we got to know each other. And you sit there long enough with a waiter, you get to know each other. And he said to me, "Listen, I'm going to put aside a couple of tickets for you and your girlfriend, and if you want to come see the show." And I said, I'd love to, but I'm actually going out of town starting tomorrow for 3 weeks. And I know the show will end by then. He said, where are you going? I said, well, I'm a stand-up comic when I'm not here. And he goes, oh, well, excuse me, Mr. I have a living outside of this because fuck Al Pacino. And I said, I'm sorry. He goes, nah, I don't buy that bullshit. He said, do you know how many people, this is the best line I've ever heard from a performer. He said, do you know how many who aren't a comic? He said, do you know how many people would just die to have these tickets? I said, no. He said, yeah, me either. It's not that good a show.
He's done
but he was being modest because the show was sensational and he was great, but I couldn't see it.
He has been working for years on a private movie of Richard III that he shows to all of his friends.
He used to have the cast. He used to have the cast do a run through rehearsal before they went on stage every night.
You're kidding?
Who?
No.
Yeah, that would be
Pacino.
Wow.
Yeah, he's doing Richard III. I would love to see that because that's such a great role.
I saw that documentary you're talking about. I've seen that.
Okay.
It's available. I mean, I don't know how you dig it up now, but it's there.
Okay. Because again, well, obviously these guys have access to video and film equipment at a time when no one did. So I mean,
on the other hand, For every Godfather and Godfather 2, there's Bobby Deerfield.
Well, don't forget Arthur, but that one at least was funny. It had him
The
trying to
Michael
do.
Caine story about Jaws 3, right?
Yeah, he said, listen, they didn't have VCRs, and it was a paycheck.
Now,
Right.
and the other thing was there was a house he wanted in
Yes.
the West Indies,
All
and
right,
it cost
breaking
$3
news.
million, and they were going to
Breaking
pay him
news.
$3 million for the movie.
Yeah. And they said he figured he'd never done that. No one would ever see this movie again.
Breaking news, gentlemen.
Yeah. What's that?
New York Times is reporting that Japan warns residents to take shelter as North Korea launches a missile.
Oh.
Let's see if I can find anything a little bit more live about that.
Well,
All right, back to your Pacino story.
Yeah. On a lighter note.
Why can't he aim in Mar-a-Lago?
Yeah, no shit.
Oh, well,
His dear friend, his good friend,
Yeah.
Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Well, the one that worries me is Putin is formally attempting to annex territory in the Ukraine, which would make any
That's a flop. That has failed. They've actually taken land back.
I hope
No,
so.
they have actually taken most of that land back. In fact,
I understand that, but I mean,
there is talk that. I'm sorry.
I say if he declares this sovereign Russian territory, then he has said that this is part of the prima facie case for first use of nuclear weapons. It is a very scary development, in my opinion. Now,
he is on the verge of getting assassinated.
Well, one can only hope, because we have no idea what will happen if someone corks off even a little one. You don't want to see that happen. Eisenhower and Truman both wanted the Korean War to end. Both of them had nuclear weapons, and no one could have done much about it. They chose not to use them for a good reason, because they did not want to set that precedent at that time.
But they weren't clinically insane.
No, they were actually intelligent, rational people. The sort of thing we'll never see ever again. I mean, back at a time when you could have a graduate of West Point or someone who was a haberdasher who had actually principles and morals while living in Washington, D.C. These are fabled days of yore gone by, sadly. And now we live in TikTok clown world with guys like Putin sitting on top of the world's largest nuclear arsenal, attempting to take over a country that, bottom line, really isn't worth a damn.
No, the economy is shit. The economy is horrible.
No, I mean, it's a great extraction economy, much like Afghanistan. If you were to go in there and kill every single living thing and then repopulate it with robots, then it would be great.
I always thought that
have to do.
The way you get men in Russia to work is to tie a string around a bottle of vodka and drag it to the workplace.
Well, careful, Sam. If I may quote from the Wannsee conference, where one of the generals once said the thing with the Russian is all you need is a bottle of vodka, someone to yell at them, and some form of animal life to fuck, and they'll do as they're told. Now, the thing is, their calculation of the Russians did not work out so well for them. In fact, after a couple of years, Wannsee was remodeled by the Russians, who showed up, and I mean, it's a weird, funny thing. I don't understand Russia. There's been some of the most horrible things one can imagine, but this is also the same people who came up with the basic mathematical equations that make space flight possible. Their mathematicians are the one who invented stealth technology. They didn't pursue it. One of our engineers did. I mean, what can I say? It's a giant country that's 1,000 years old, that has a long history of really weird, strange, maniacal, murderous leadership.
Yeah, I mean, you look at somebody like Lenin.
Yes.
And he's the guy upon which Animal Farm was based.
Yes. And Stalin comes along, actually makes Lenin look like the moderate.
It's always amazed me. It's always amazed me that Stalin does not get the same amount of enmity that Hitler did, because he killed more people.
Yeah. On a whole new magnitude, and at the same time dragged the Soviet Union into modernity. But yes, he did it over a pile of corpses, twice that of the Third Reich. But there's an excellent series of books by Dr. Stephen Kotkin, who's a he's a New York liberal. If you listen to him, that's exactly how he describes himself. And he spent the better part of the last 20 years producing a 3-volume series on Joseph Stalin. I've listened to several of his lectures. I have not had a chance to read the books because they're each longer than an Ayn Rand novel, although these are actually true, as opposed to as opposed to
I read, I saw an interview.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. No, please.
No, go right ahead. I mean, go on.
I saw an interview with Ayn Rand,
Mm-hmm.
with Mike Wallace.
Yes, I've seen it.
And
it's on
the
YouTube.
first thing I thought was, I've never seen anyone smoke that much.
Well, that's why she died of lung cancer.
Yep.
Yeah,
and she had a guy who was a follower of hers, and she essentially just told his wife, "I'm taking him."
Yep. Well, she was married. Yeah, Leonard, and she his name was Nathaniel Brandon, and she fucked the hell out of him for 10 years.
Right.
And if you can imagine getting it up and putting it in Miss Rand, again, hats off. I guess someone wanted the notoriety. I'm not sure how you do that, but that is what happened. And then when he broke it off, pardon the expression, she publicly disowned him, and she went back to her husband, Frank O'Connor. Rand is an interesting character. Whether you like her, whether you hate her, whether you don't agree with any of her, she was one of these characters who comes out of the sort of mid-century United States that I find eminently fascinating. Gore Vidal is another one. I'm not on the same side as Gore Vidal, but boy, isn't he quotable? Isn't he interesting to listen to? Doesn't he?
You know who amazes me? Well? Madalyn Murray O'Hair.
Yes, who died in really horrific circumstances. Yes.
She was just an amazing woman.
Yes, who gets prayer out of schools in America.
Yep.
She got prayer out of schools, which, I didn't like the lady, but I have to agree with her on that one. School should not be a place for religious instruction. It just shouldn't.
Have you been looking at local school board elections lately?
Yeah, I have. And I know there are people who disagree with me, and I know I'm the conservative right winger on this show, so to speak. But religion and state are two separate things in this country.
You know what I always wonder?
Religion over there and state over here.
Why do we have to pledge allegiance to the flag every day? Why every day? Oh, look, Daddy's home.
We're wearing that cheapo thing from the Alien film.
Now, is that the theater behind you, Andy? Oh, there's the Fillmore. How about that? So the show's over?
Show's over. It was really good.
Good.
Pretty fantastic.
Why don't you get some reactions for us? You're live on the air. Get some reaction shots for us. Go ahead and interview.
I laughed, I cried, I shit.
Podcast we're doing. There's Mark Sweetman is a comic, and so is Sam
Greenfield.
Yeah, go. So, would you like the show?
Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah.
Okay. What was the favorite thing you like?
I like the recap at the beginning with the audience numbers. Exactly. I love that he does that almost every time.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, when somebody comes in, it's pretty good. It is. I like the fact that he does callbacks so well.
Was there any nudity?
No nudity, but a lot of testicle talk.
Yeah.
Well, then forget it.
There we go.
No, hold on.
There's more nudity. Okay, there you go.
Testicle, Sam.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. So
Thank you. Glad you enjoyed it.
There we go. So, do I have to do that again, or can I be a nice guy?
No, you can. No, yeah. Why did you think that was unpleasant?
No, actually, it was pleasant for them. I was fine. I was just a strange guy with a book under my arm, and I just saw the show. I have a mask and a hat that says NASA, but why not talk to a guy like that?
Andy, it's not like you followed them home. It's okay.
That comes later.
And your hat says NASA, not MAGA. So
right.
That's true. It's a NASA hat. But it was really good. I mean, he was his ability to do callbacks and keep getting more and more out of the callbacks. It's fantastic. It's just incorporates in humor, poignancy, life, death. It's just fantastic.
Well, didn't he used to work the door at one of the major comedy clubs in New York 30 years ago? I remember him talking about when he was coming up, how he.
Who, Mike?
Yes,
Yeah.
that was one of his. That's how he actually made money. Was out there passing out handbills, and
Yeah.
they let him work the door and get a few.
Oh,
extra
that could
tips
be.
that way.
That could absolutely be. I
Not
know
a
that
comic
Danny
strip
Aiello
anymore.
started at the Improv as a bouncer.
You're kidding. I love that.
Yeah.
By the way,
Yeah. Look at this.
The improv in Hell's
who in
Kitchen.
their right mind would give that man shit? In other words, if Danny Aiello comes up to you and says, "Could you keep it down a little?"
Yeah,
The next
you're damn
sentence
right.
is not going to
Yes, I
be,
can.
"No, screw you, pal."
Well, that's like Bill over at the Comedy Castle. Bill's been the bouncer there for about 25, 30 years
Oh, yeah.
now. And
Well, another guy. It's like he looks like someone I used to meet on Top Lock at Jackson back when I was going to get my physical on a daily basis. I remember I used to see Tommy Hearns' brother jerking off in his cell because, again, he was in there for murder, first degree. And at that point, let your freak flag fly because you're going to be there for a while and don't nobody much care anyway. So, I mean, that was my
So
brush
might
with
as well yank
celebrity
your
fame.
Frank, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's like, well, here we are. Here we go. I mean, so
just
people.
talk about your twists of fate. Two brothers, one
Mhm.
puts on gloves and gets in the ring and beats the shit out of people, and the other
But
guy
gets paid really
and gets
well
paid,
to do it.
and the other guy kills people, and then he
Kills the
ends up
guy.
in prison. That's just
Well, you know the author John Edgar Wideman,
Hmm.
African American author. His brother, a Pulitzer Prize winning author, okay? His brother is in jail for the foreseeable future for murder.
Right.
And then John Edgar Wideman, his son is now in jail for some horrific crime.
Wow.
Whoa. Well, I can relate stories of gay porn stars whose father and son routine, but I'm not sure that's really,
Well, I was
material,
always
but-
interested in the fact that John Holmes was in jail for bludgeoning someone to death. It always leads one to ask the question, with what?
With what?
Yeah,
What was the instrument?
Yeah, and
Hey, Andy.
Wow.
He did that. That was all a big setup by
Andy.
the guy who was running the nightclub. The
Chuck
Andy's
satire.
attention here.
Trainer.
Yeah.
Hey, Andy.
Yes.
Andy, can you hear me?
I can
Andy.
hear you.
Yeah, what'd you pay for parking down there?
I don't really want to say, but yeah, it's $27.
Wow.
But it was right
How
next,
much were
it's
the
right next to it's right next to Filmer. There's an $8 lot that's over behind the building over here in the dark next to the muggers that are waiting for you.
You didn't want to walk through the dark in downtown Detroit?
No, I ain't gonna want to just go to a place like the Cool America, we're actually ironically right next to where the old Second City used to be. So
Well, that's a comedy club now.
yeah, I see that. Yeah.
That's
Well,
when
I
I was talking last week about going to the comedy festival
Uh-huh.
at the Detroit Comedy Festival. That's where it was. It was at the Detroit House of Comedy.
Oh, yeah.
The Howard University, my alma mater, we're
Yeah.
supposed to get, some of my fraternity brothers were supposed to get together for homecoming, right?
Right.
And tell me if I'm wrong about this, because you guys might know better than me. So I said, are you guys going to the homecoming football game? And they said, yeah. And I said, oh, how much are tickets? This is a homecoming college football game.
Okay.
They said, I don't know, $75, $80.
That's about
I said-
college football right now.
I said, how much? And they go, 75. I said, I'm not going. And they go, why? I go, I have no rooting interest in the team. I could be the grandfather of everybody. I could be the grandfather of the coach. I can't. I don't want to go. I'm not going to sit there. I'm going to sit there and go, $80. Are you shitting me? $80 to inhale some home ec major's weed? No.
No, I'm not the guy who ordered a taxi. Look, check up there. Did you order a taxi?
Are you working, Andy?
Yeah, I think
No.
he's working the crowd.
Well, I worked today, but the guy's trying to pick me up. I mean, come on,
Well, you're not the first time.
Well, look at you. You're a thing to be.
I mean, you're a stud among studs.
Yeah,
that's right. Why wouldn't he
He
want
has
to
a Santa Claus fetish. I don't really like the Santa Claus fetish guys.
Well, then stop saying ho ho ho.
Always trying to get you with their own. Their big. Hey, can I show you my candy cane? No,
that nose ain't going to be red for long, pal. Let me tell you.
I know.
You slide down the chimney is what.
That's right. That's right. Stop touching my beard, buddy.
Hey, listen, every night's Christmas when you're in my basement. I'll tell you that right now.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Won't you drive my sleigh tonight?
I guess that's probably. I guess. Well, I did drive. I was driving earlier tonight, but I was stuck up somewhere in the middle of nowhere.
That happens.
Yeah, Livonia.
That sounds so sad.
Livonia.
Yeah,
spend a week
Livonia can sometimes be a very like a dark hole of existence up there.
Well,
but anyway,
I live there, and the thing I hate about it is all of our 24-hour restaurants are gone.
Oh wow!
Well, they don't need 24 hours in a row. I mean,
but don't you remember when we were kids? We had the ram's horn, the clock, the flame, the tower. We had all these 24-hour diners, and they're not around anymore.
Even Denny's is kind of like folding up its little.
Denny's is not in Ann Arbor anymore. I mean, come on, that's where it was either Denny's or the gay bar where you'd go and get really bad cocaine at 2:00 in the morning. I mean, where else would you go for mediocre coke? Because you managed to get it on with something or someone, and you're definitely going to need some hard drugs to get through the rest of the night.
I went there for the sugar high. I didn't really go for the cocaine high. I'm sorry, but
well, I went there with the Santa Claus.
Maple syrup does the same for me as cocaine. I'll tell you that. It just snorting is kind of tough.
Sam, you got to get closer to the mic. You're getting
you're getting clipped out.
You're getting machinery here. Now he's gone.
Oh dear. Well, while you're down there, and since both of you guys have some experience, will I need to park somewhere when I do my big bit down there at the old Miami or whatever?
No, you know what? The old Miami is far enough away that there'll be street parking and possibly even abandoned lots.
Yeah.
Mark, no. Are you trying to get me killed?
I'm serious, right? I'm serious, though, because last time I went to the old Miami.
Right.
I was going to park at a lot where they had the machines that you put your credit card in and you give them the code and everything, and that would have been a few bucks. But then right next to it was a lot that people were starting to pull in there, and so I pulled in there as well. It was just an abandoned lot. Every once in a while, you'll see like a neighbor come by and say, he'll try to charge you $10 or something like that, and then you just say something like, "This doesn't look licensed to me," and you take your chances, but.
Well, the last time I parked in Detroit was for a Guar concert in '98, and they ended up stealing my Capri Classic. So,
wow.
True story.
Yeah, I would say pay for parking. That's what I would say.
Okay.
But you're gonna see a lot of metered parking there near the Miami. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I will keep an eye out.
What's that?
What's that?
Andy?
Yeah.
How much were the tickets to see Birbiglia?
How much was it to see how much were the tickets to the show tonight?
How much were the tickets to see Mike Birbiglia?
Well, I gotta tell you, it was kind of weird. I didn't know what tickets I was getting. It was $40, and it said chair.
Oh, that's not bad at all.
I was like just 2 rows back from the stage. This is the closest I've been to a comic in a while. So
for $40, that's amazing.
Yeah, but there was a fee put on top of that, so it got up to like $75.
Oh, jeez! That's a $35 fee on a $40 ticket.
Yeah.
Well, who did you buy
it? They don't say that when you buy it at first. Then they tack that on.
Now, who did you buy it through?
I went through Live Nation, and I think they're part of the Ticketmaster crew.
Yeah, they're a rip-off. Ticketmaster, that's a rip-off.
Yeah. So another part of the insect overlord slave apparatus.
Yeah. But I mean, compared to some other tickets I was trying to get, like for Jim Gaffigan and for just shall we say the Lions, it was probably the best bet in town. So,
Well,
It was a bargain.
and honestly, I think we should take hope in the fact that the Lions are losing, because that means that that Putin will not launch the nuclear code, because with the Lions losing, that means that Armageddon isn't coming and Jesus isn't returning.
in other
So,
words, we're in the proper
if they get into the
timeline.
playoffs, that's when Armageddon happens and Jesus is coming.
That means we're in a different timeline, right? And the Lions win the playoffs.
Yeah. Well, boys, we've done it. We've done another hour of bearded comics talking amongst each other. Time
Except
to go.
for Sam.
Hey, thanks to Kevin Kramers for popping in.
I didn't shave for 3 days in tribute.
Oh, thank you very much. Anyway, it's time to go. We're going to take the show down. Stick around, fellas. We'll talk afterwards here.
Okay.
Get that blasted music out, that blasted bumper music out of the way here. All right.